Primeval. Adam's grand plan comes to fruition.
We open with Buffy looking for Riley at the burned out high school, which they still haven't cleaned up for some reason. So where have all these kids in this town been going to high school for the past, 2 years?
Yeah, I wondered about that too. We cut to Riley, who is hanging out with Adam, and Adam says that Walsh implanted him with a behavioral modifier that forces him to do whatever Adam says. So all those dumb jokes about Riley having a chip in his head turned out to be true, even if it's not technically in his head.
And Adam says once Riley has forgotten his own life, he'll like being controlled. He points out that demons suck at technology, and humans are held back by emotion, and that Walsh saw their future, not realizing that it's our emotions that make us strong.
Yeah, I'm surprised they never said that. Spike shows up and reminds Adam that he wants his own chip removed, and Adam says he'll only remove it when Buffy is where he wants her, which is down in the Initiative base, killing demons while they kill just as many humans to achieve maximum carnage. I didn't realize there was going to be a Spider-Man tie-in to all this crap.
Spike says it will be easy to get Buffy down there once Willow relays the information she has, but then he realizes that he made everyone hate each other, and Willow and Buffy won't talk to each other now, so he goes to get them to talk to each other. When really it seems like it would be easier to just make up some diversion or lie to get Buffy to go down there. Why does Willow have to tell her to go down there?
There are a million easier ways to do this. He could even just go out to Buffy himself and say, "Hey, this is where I am, come get me." And Buffy would do it, which is basically what happens, because she knows that he's the one behind everything. And I will note that it was his plan to have Spike break everybody up, but it was also his plan to have Willow give Buffy the information, but somehow he blames Spike for it not working out. Willow and Tara show up at Hungover Giles' house to pick up the laptop and discs that Willow left behind, and Willow awkwardly gathers her stuff and then awkwardly leaves.
We cut to Buffy listening to her Sounds of Melodrama CD as she laments over a picture of her and her friends before grabbing an axe,
showing that she really carries a grudge. Anya talks to Xander, who is supposed to go to a job interview, but he's depressed about his friends thinking he's a loser. He says maybe they're right. So maybe he's not as dumb as we thought he was.
Yeah, we said that before, and he always turns out to be as dumb as we think he is.
Yeah, that's true. Anya says it doesn't matter what they think because she loves him, but from his response, it's obvious that that's not enough.
Adam and Riley are in an area of the Initiative that Adam claims no one knew about, and we see that Walsh is dead, but more undead now because she's walking around like a zombie, along with that other doctor guy and idiot number 1, who's pulling a whole trap jaw thing.
So were Walsh and the surgeon guy the only people that knew about this place? Because that doesn't make a lot of sense. What's the point of having this big place if nobody is going to be using it? Buffy runs into Spike in Adam's cave, but he convinces her that he was just looking for a new lair. And he tells her she better get the info from the discs from Willow, saying she can't let a little argument get in the way of stopping Adam. And it is very subtly revealed that Buffy sees through Spike's bullshit, but Spike is too stupid to notice.
Willow is hacking the Matrix when it unencrypts itself, but they don't seem to think that it's weird, nor that Buffy calls them at that exact moment to ask about the unencrypted Matrix.
Zombified idiot number 1 talks to Riley about how much better he feels about himself now that he's a zombie. Riley says they can't control him, but he's unable to resist as Walsh injects him with something.
And idiot number 1 gloats about how powerful he is and how they're going to take over the world, and a bunch of other dialogue ripped straight from his Masters of the Universe comic book.
The gang convenes for a meeting in the middle of a walkway on campus, obviously the most logical location. And Buffy asks the others who told them the things that upset them, and they realize, surprisingly quickly, given that we are trying to wrap everything up in this episode, that Spike was the one behind their falling out.
But nobody points out how easy it was and how stupid they all are to have just fallen for it.
Giles seems to realize at least, but I'm sure the others don't. She tells them about her interaction with Spike in the cave, and Willow mentions the discs, saying they had info about an army of biomechanical demonoids like Adam, and Buffy realizes that Adam must have wanted her to know about it.
They determine the next phase is for the demons and the soldiers to fight inside the Initiative, which will give Adam a bunch of demon parts to stitch together. The gang continues their conversation, but they're now in a different location to make it seem like things are moving forward.
They discuss how to defeat Adam, and Buffy mentions his uranium power source, which for some reason they still seem fixated on.
And Willow suggests using magic to stop Adam, and Xander says they should all work together to stop Adam, which was a crazy concept. Who would have thought of that?
Giles says Xander might be onto something, but we cut away before he can explain. The gang goes to the Initiative house, and Buffy and Willow Mission Impossible their way in through the now non-functioning elevator shaft, even though, again, we know they have stairs.
And they both decide that this is the perfect time to open up and discuss how they feel about everything.
They get to the point where they're hugging each other, and then, for some reason, Xander rappels down, and Giles is still at the top. I get leaving somebody up top to keep an eye out, but I would think they would be trying to hurry up. They're taking forever. And eventually, the elevator shaft door opens, but they are met by a bunch of Initiative goons.
Adam is upset that Buffy is not alone.
Even though, again, her friends shouldn't make much difference. And Adam tells Idiot Number 1 to kill Spike, but Spike figures out his weakness is cigarettes and escapes. So hopefully Buffy will figure out she just needs a pack of menthols and she'll be good.
So is this the tobacco equivalent of that beer bad alcohol episode?
Yeah, but this one is more like tobacco good.
Oh. Well, you convinced me. I'll be right back. Buffy and gang are being grilled by the soldiers, who say she's crazy. She has no idea what she's talking about. When all the lights turn off and all the demons are immediately let loose and start killing everybody.
It reminded me of Cabin in the Woods, although in this case we only see a couple of cells open, which really helps to make it convincing how many demons there are down there. The colonel tells a guard that the gang is under arrest and runs off with everyone else, and as soon as they leave, Buffy takes out the guard very easily, because she's the Slayer.
You say as soon as they leave, but it was before the other guys even left. They definitely would have heard Buffy doing that.
Yeah, that's true. Giles says they need a quiet place where they won't be interrupted to cast their spell, and as they look for one on the cameras, a big fight erupts between the soldiers and the demons, and for some reason, demons keep trying to attack Spike, which didn't really make sense.
Willow finds Adam's secret lab because, despite the lab not being on the map, all of the air ducts and electrical systems are, and they're all pointing to nothing. What a great job, Walsh.
In the middle of the big fight, Idiot Number 2 shows how great of a soldier he is by running right out into the open and holding his rifle incorrectly as he fires at random targets. The gang then shows how smart they are by running right through the middle of the big chamber, with Buffy knocking demons aside and Xander zapping other ones. And stuff keeps exploding in the background for some reason. And at one point, Idiot Number 2 apparently tries to shoot Willow, but thankfully he gets killed by a demon. And the secret entrance is in a room that for some reason no one is using to take shelter, and Giles says it should be good for casting the spell, even though anyone else could get into that room just as easily as they did. And when Willow closes the door behind Buffy, the same GoldenEye sound effect from that earlier episode is used.
Buffy goes into Adam's lab alone and runs over to Riley, but is quickly overpowered by Idiot Number 1.
Adam shows up and tells her that Riley is part of the final phase, like Buffy was supposed to be, as Zombie Walsh approaches with a bone saw, reminding me of Planet Terror.
Meanwhile, Willow, Xander, and Giles are prepping the spell, as Riley's cutting into himself to remove his chip.
Apparently somehow channeling the power of love or something to get over his inability to move, and for some reason he knows exactly where the chip is.
The zombies are about to kill Buffy, but Riley jumps in to save her and starts fighting Idiot Number 1.
Buffy leaves him to fight him alone, even though we already know that Riley is not as strong as her, and she was getting beaten up, and Riley just stabbed himself after fighting being controlled. I would think they would work together to take out Idiot Number 1, and then they could work together to fight Adam, and things go exactly as I expect, because Riley immediately proceeds to get his ass kicked. The incompetent colonel leads a group of soldiers right out into the open, fires a pistol with one hand, and then immediately tells his men to fall back. What a good leader.
Adam is enjoying watching the soldiers and demons fighting, and Buffy goes to confront him. The fight between Adam and Buffy was pretty goofy, especially when Adam turned his arm into a CGI gun, which was ridiculous,
causing Buffy to do some goofy slow-motion jumping away. And I wondered what happened to that axe that Buffy had earlier, or why wouldn't she at least pick up a gun on the way?
The magic spell is complete, which takes Willow, Xander, and Giles, their essences, I guess, and transfers them to Buffy, so she's all four of them.
Which should make her even weaker than usual.
Or less intelligent.
And it gives her creepy possessed eyes.
Adam shoots at her, but taking a cue from Willow earlier, who was hacking the Matrix, she stops all of Adam's bullets.
Riley starts hitting Idiot Number 1 with a gas tank, showing that he's smarter than Buffy because at least he knows how to use a weapon, and he pulls a stretcher down in front of him, right as flying sparks cause the flammable gas leaking from the tank to explode. Whether he pulled the stretcher down on purpose or not, it was ridiculous, but either way, Idiot Number 1 is finally actually dead, I hope.
Buffy finally manages to overpower Adam's strength, and she yanks out his uranium power source like a Terminator in Terminator 3.
Does that happen? Oh,
Yeah.
man. I don't want to find a clip from that. And she's probably bathing herself in deadly radiation. Riley stumbles in to see Buffy levitating the power core and seemingly erasing it from existence.
You are terminated.
So just channeling the power of these other people makes her able to do that?
That's how strong friendship is. That's what Adam never realized.
I hope they do that in the future anytime she's facing a big threat. Why couldn't she just do that to Adam himself? Or even do that to his power core while it's inside his body?
Good question. The spellcasters finish up and are almost killed by a demon, but then they're saved by Spike.
He pretends to be heroic, but when Xander points out that he was working with Adam, Spike admits that he just doesn't want them to stake him, even though they still have every reason to do so.
And have 4 seasons.
Buffy and Riley bust in from the other door, and they go to fight and get out.
We close with a government table determining Walsh's project was not successful and terminating any further efforts to control demons. It was a very X-Files scene.
And the main guy says they're going to fill up the initiative base with concrete.
Does that include the house?
Good question. Primeval. Overall?
I know there's an episode after this one, but this really felt like the season finale. I'm interested to see what happens in the next episode. I thought it was a missed opportunity to not have Tara assisting Willow really at any point through this episode, because she is part of the gang now, right?
And it didn't really make sense for her not to be there, even though they kind of tried to wave that off.
They even could have used that cat. He could have leapt at Adam and scratched at his eyes. Or maybe they could have done some magic thing where Tara became a cat person, merged their essences. The big battle with things exploding and people dying, all that seemed really expensive. I'm not sure why everything was exploding. And while Anya in this episode was used primarily for comic relief, I wonder if there's going to be any actual character growth on her end, because she's been doing the same stuff for quite a while, and while everyone else seems to be moving forward, she does not. Maybe she just shifts over to Angel. It seems like what they're doing with a lot of characters. So Adam's big plan was to Frankenstein a bunch of demons together, and all of that time he never appeared in these episodes for this season. He was, supposedly preparing to do that? But there was no reason for it to take as long as the whole season for him to do that. Very disappointing. Turns out he was just lame. Like you mentioned, this super magical 4-person essence entity that can reduce the half-life of all of these elements and whatever should be used a lot, now that they know they can do it.
Wait, did they say that?
No, I just said that.
Okay.
And they should use this new power to wipe out existing threats that they know are still out there. Just make it a Friday night thing. We'll all merge together, we'll psychically wipe out evil, and then we'll go get some pizza. But then it will be comical, because they won't be able to decide what toppings to get, so they'll just be arguing with each other in the same body, and the cashier will be really confused. It'll be so funny. Anyway, this episode gets an A. Now, for all of the supposed build-up of everything over this season, this episode kind of dropped the ball, and I thought it was a poor finale. You might give it higher than this, but I gave it a D.
Okay. I was debating between a D+ and a C-. I went ahead with a C-. I was surprised that things came together as well as they did. I expected a lot more plot holes and things that didn't make sense, and while we did have some of that, it wasn't as bad as I thought it might be. Adam's plan getting foiled because he trusted Spike to do what he was supposed to do last episode was really dumb, especially since he did do what he was supposed to do. It only served to make Adam look stupid and point out that his plans didn't make sense to begin with. And again, keeping Spike around for the gang doesn't make sense. And I would think after he just participated in a plan to get them all killed yet again, they would finally wise up and just kill him. But I already know that's not going to happen. And Adam's plan, once we found out what it was, turned out to be, if anything, even stupider than I expected. We saw that he turned idiot number 2 into a demonoid robot or whatever. Why couldn't he do that to one person at a time? Especially since no one knew where he was. Instead, he brought all this attention to his plan, gathered up a bunch of demons that could have helped him along the way, and instead got them all killed, and he got Buffy more directly involved. If he hadn't basically told her where he was, he probably could have stayed hidden indefinitely. And it would make much more sense to kill any humans or demons himself once they were captured, so that he could get exactly the parts he needed, instead of having them kill each other and potentially damage themselves to the point that he can't use those bodies. The entire scheme was really stupid and didn't make sense. The episode just cutting off at the end, as far as the gang is concerned, was weird and not at all satisfying, and this entire episode was plot-focused once the gang got back together, but they didn't really, as I'm saying that, I guess they did have that hugging scene to make up for their arguments earlier. I guess this episode was better than I thought. And I actually started out writing my wrap-up thinking this was the last episode of the season. I forgot that there was another one. So hopefully the next one makes up for this one's shortcomings, especially on how it just ends all of a sudden. But for this episode, it didn't work for me, especially since this was supposed to be kind of a big end battle, and even the battle itself. You said it seemed expensive, and I'm sure it was, but the way they shot everything, it was almost the same angles over and over again, which made it seem not interesting. I get that they kind of wanted to do like a long shot where they can capture everything at once and show how, show the scale of everything, but it just kind of points out that there's not really that many people actually there, and that the explosions are coming out of nowhere, and people are just flying around in ways that doesn't make sense, and the characters are just being stupid and running out in the middle of everything instead of at least hugging the walls. It just made it feel less believable and kind of took me out of the episode. So I was going to say this was a disappointing end to the season, but I guess we'll find out next episode how disappointing the end of the season is.
Right.
So join us for that.